All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. That's going to become a meme at some point itself as well. Let me make sure that we're live on Rumble. I know chat's working. That's usually a good sign. Let's make sure the feed is actually picking up the video. By the way, 103,000 people now subscribing on Rumble. It'll be interesting to see how many people are live there. We have over 300, already a Biden loser unit on YouTube. For some reason, I got to reload it again. I jumped the gun. My apologies. Yes, okay, we are live on Rumble. Go down to Rumble rants there. Rebels and Kings, drunk me, I'm luck. Yes, indeed, we are going on Pixel Planet yet again. And let me get the exact coordinates here so that I can watch everyone's progress. While we're live, don't worry, this evening I will be joining up further. If you see there, if you take that link, it is pinned. If you're watching on YouTube, it's pinned at the top of chat. Cross-platform link in the description. You can see if you zoom out just a little bit, this is the bottom edge of the giant swastika that the Nazis on Pixel Planet have been making over West Africa. And we've pretty much fucked it in the ass. That's because they were trying to take our territory. They could have just built around us, but they, for some reason, chose not to. Anyway, you can pixel that in. It would be funny to see a little clanker navy. Some people have begun to build ships off the coast down there, and it looks pretty cool. Having a bunch of ships at sea, like somebody put an aircraft carrier down there where the Nazis used to have their territory. Anyway, we are also pixeling in the ocean in a blue scheme, as you can see down there. Just follow the pattern if you want to do that and burn off a few hours while you listen. It's a good time had by all. Last night, I paneled in an area to the north and made some good progress, actually. I think I did that on and off for a couple of hours. I don't have time for gaming because, you know, I have a child, so, you know, she lays over here, gets fed or whatever. But I do have a hand free, so, you know, I can play on Pixel Planet. So I figured that was pretty funny. By the way, if any Europeans want to give me ideas, I am looking for a CO2-fed BB pistol, a pellet gun, or whatever the fucking terminology is. It must have the CO2 cartridge separate from the magazine, though. Like, there's a Mauser version, actually, that Razorfist would probably find hilarious. Unfortunately, you have to put that in the magazine, which means you have to refill the same magazine after you screw it in, which makes no sense whatsoever for any conceivable purpose. It doesn't make any sense, because then you can't use multiple magazines. Soleil333 for the Caffeine and Diaper Fund. Thank you very much. Trust me, I appreciate it. The Great Scalzini, government arrested people for trying to run their business. 2 years later, guilt, those same people who oppose them for taking PPP, all just to pay off professional, useless people. Their evil knows no bounds. True. By the way, on the Gavin McInnes thing, Colonel Quayle, I do see your comment there. We still don't, as far as I know, have any real updates. We don't know if he's in jail, if he's detained, if he's free to go and he's just, you know, not doing his show today or something like that. I have no clue what's going on. So I can't put it in the news roundup. I'd like to cover it separately, but I would really like someone who's more familiar with Gavin, because I have been on his show, I think, once before. Tip me off. Tell me what the fuck is going on here. I won't reveal anything that's, you know, sensitive, but I would like to know, because it is rather strange what happened. I think it might have been swatting, political persecution. There's no way to know, though, so I can't really report on it here. Other than, yes, Gavin was streaming the other day. The Fed showed up, or the cops in general, and then he went off air, and his chair was basically sitting there live streaming for an extended period of time. I don't know anything further, though. I've been given no news tip on this, so there's nothing I can do. This is the news wrap-up show. The whole purpose is to wrap up the news. Anyway, make sure that things are all lined up here. Just give me a moment, everyone. The main news of the day, of course, just in, judge unseals heavily redacted Trump raid affidavit. Yes, indeed, we did get the affidavit after the FBI suggested redactions to it. The problem is that it's 80 to 85% redacted, which means it's worth absolutely nothing. And as predicted, it's being used as fodder to proclaim that Donald Trump broke the law, even though the pertinent information there about specifically what was queried, the person who signed the affidavit, everything that's sensitive, we don't have that. So all we know is what we knew before, which is that there was classified material at the Mar-a-Lago. Nowhere in here do we have any particular corroboration that it wasn't declassified. So it's basically a nothing burger. The big news is that it's being used exactly as I suspected it would, as a hit piece. What happened is that the government wants to persecute Donald Trump. That is now clear. They decided to very, very selectively unredact a very few portions of the document to make the claim, hey, there was top secret material here. We identified some of it as specifically really, really top secret, super duper top secret, if you will. But we're not going to tell you, we're not going to give you any evidence of that. We're not going to tell you who's making the claim. No, that would be bad. Just trust us, you dumb fucks. Mr. Sandvich, nice looking barcode document. Honk, honk. Yeah, I mean, most of the document, most of the sections are completely blacked out. So it's shit to me. It doesn't mean anything. It could, any of those sections could contain literally anything under the sun. It could be literally word salad. It could be a cryptographic entry that's in code for all we know. There's no way to know. But it's still being used, as I suspected it would be, by the liberal craptivists and by the legacy media as evidence that Donald Trump has done some great, terrible thing wrong. It looks a lot like J6, like Pissgate, like the Steele dossier, Russiagate in general, his tax returns. Over and over and fucking over again, we've gotten this bullshit from these people. Why would I trust now that all of a sudden things have changed? It's a demoralization tactic prior to the midterms more than anything else. Duke 1962. Do you believe that Joe Biden has any clue about the decisions that he is making for the American people? I believe he has late stage Alzheimer's. Not late stage, maybe early to mid stage, I would say. But yes, he does. No, I do not believe that he makes the decisions within his administration. Fire down below. They're turning the freaking bees gay. JB Hicks and 666. No comment. Thank you very much, though. The great Scalzini forgot to say good morning, but the White House PPP smear campaign brings my pee-pee to a boil. So yeah, the main news of the day really is the affidavit, but it's not newsworthy in and of itself. The affidavit itself is not, I mean, I wouldn't even cover it otherwise. The only reason that it's basically relevant is because it's being reported on as though it's relevant by people who already fucking dislike Trump. We already know this. I predicted this long ago. Others did. If there was going to be a release at all, it would be heavily redacted. And part of that is to protect the identity of the individual. That's standard practice. Nobody's criticizing that, by the way. What I would be critical of is that there is no specific information here. It's all the same general bullshit that we already knew before. You might as well have not have unredacted it at all. You might as well have not even unsealed it. It doesn't show anyone anything. It has no point. There's no meaning to it. Not that it surprises me. That was the entire point. The court is clearly gunning for Trump. They found a justice, Reinhart, who specifically does not like Trump, was an Obama donor, worked with Epstein. We'll be covering one of his associates. What was his name? Hoffman or something like that. Hoffenberg. He died recently. Died. Totally normal circumstances. Found heavily decomposed in his penthouse. We'll be talking about that. No worries. Yeah, and Link 700 brings up a good point. I was going to put this in here, but Zuckerberg, we already know, is disingenuous, number one. Number two, if you actually watch the bits with Rogan, he was on Joe Rogan's show, actually, a couple of days ago, and talking about the FBI and others showing up to talk about Russian disinformation, which never is really a thing. It doesn't really exist. It's basically like a 1984 horseshit at this point. Really, it's the claim of disinformation is the disinformation. They were told by the government to keep a sharp eye out for disinformation. It just happened to happen exactly at the same time that the Hunter Biden laptop thing dropped. It's not coincidental. It's quite clear what the insinuation was, and they blocked it from being talked about to any great detail. Twitter blocked it outright. YouTube partially blocked it, pertinent to individuals that were named within. Facebook took a little bit more of a laissez-faire approach. They just algorithmically demoted the material from being promulgated. That being said, we already knew this, number one. Zuckerberg did not confirm or deny that that was particularly pertinent to their decision-making, number two. They just threw it in as an aside into the wider disinformation network. If anything is to be derived from that, and that's not one of my news stories, but I'll cover it here in brief anyway, it's that these big tech firms cannot be relied upon to police information and should be prevented legally from doing so. Because oftentimes they're spreading disinformation by fighting disinformation. Something that is true is labeled false by the right people. They persecute it and label it false themselves and prevent it from spreading. And then later on, you find out it was true. Hunter Biden's laptop, Russiagate, the hoax there. The J6 hoax will soon be on that same table. It was definitely deliberate. It was coordinated. The government was directly involved. And I have a feeling that that they knew it was more than an insinuation that the Hunter Biden laptop was part of that. Mojo Hansen, Rasmussen is a fake outlier driving up the total. No, Rasmussen's polls have been relatively on point, actually, for a number of years. Hair Juicer 3000, shill me because I am not talented enough to grow organically. Lol. Joseph A, blankety blank, clankety clank. Outas 85, hey John Lennon, you hanging out with the Maharishi this weekend? JUFM, no one will believe anything the feds come up with after the raid at Mar-a-Lago. Disqualified Trump might be write-in candidate in 2024. I don't think they'll disqualify him, in all honesty. I don't think anything will actually come of it. It'll be just like Pissgate. Jesus Mesus, have an acquaintance who's an oath keeper. In real life, they're a group of retired police and military boomers. Calling them terrorists is transparent evil. Yeah, I never got any terrible vibes from those people. Beep, bop, boop. What do you think has happened to Gavin McInnes? I think he's been detained. That's my guess. But I have no way of knowing because I don't have any updates. I wish one of Gavin's people would elucidate this to some of us creators. I mean, the best way for us to help defend him against persecution is if we know what the fuck is going on. Broken Sword. Hey, Sticks, I heard you play piano by ear. I do too as well. I composed a piece for my mom after she passed away in 2019. It's on my pinned tweet at Broken Sword 25. Check it out and thank you. Yeah, you probably play it better than me. To be clear, I was getting used to it, but then for multiple years, I didn't really do it anymore. Should probably get back into it. I did make a couple of organ instrumentals that I thought were kind of fun. Duke, 1962. Sticks, do you really believe in polls anymore? They are heavily weighted towards the Dems. I have been polled. The poll person has always tried to steer me with my answers. Yeah, polling firms typically do, but that doesn't mean that if you look at all of them, a plethora of polls, and develop an aggregate, that it doesn't give you at least a rough idea of where things are. We will be getting into some polling later. Don't worry. YouTube is dying. Yeah, the affidavit looked kind of like that African horse. I think they call it a zebra. Tell me how moving trucks justify a political raid. It did look a little bit like a zebra or a barcode people are comparing it to. Mr. Kangaroo. Hey, Sticks, during your study of the occult, have you heard about the Chateau d'Amorat, the Mothers of Darkness Castle, and the Dutrell Mark scandal, which took place in Belgium? No, I haven't heard of these things. I'll have to look them up. Yeah, just a sec. Let me pop this in. Mothers of Darkness Castle. Belgium. Okay, I'll save that off to the side for later. Thank you very much for the tip. Maybe there's a good documentary on it I can watch later. Miku4X Bod, most disgusting food you ever ate. Also, show cat. The cats aren't here right now. The most disgusting food was an adaptation of one of my favorite foods in the world that my mom made once on a whim. She makes really good shepherd's pie. Technically, it's a cottage pie. It's with hamburger and potato and with corn. I make it a little different. I add carrots to it and also peas, and I make the potato much, much more buttery. It's just my way of doing it. By the way, I make an excellent cottage pie. Just saying, you would eat it. And you will not need ketchup for it either. Lots of rosemary in the fucking potatoes. But one time, she decided, hey, potatoes are good with sour cream, right? I'm going to put sour cream in the potatoes within the shepherd's pie. Now, if you had ladled it on top, maybe it would have worked. I'm not a huge fan of sour cream on my baked potatoes or anything. Not that I give a shit about baked potatoes. She just cooked it into the potatoes. And it gave it a very unpleasant flavor. And when I first bit into it, I'm like, this tastes off. There's something wrong here. And I was like, is there something different in this? This was when I was like 11 or 12 or something. And she insisted that she hadn't done anything differently to it. Then my dad bit into it, and he had the same reaction. We were looking at each other like, something's not right here. We can tell that there's something different. And, we badgered her about it. And finally, she admitted to what she had done. And I'm like, oh, God, why did you do that? I was so psyched, too, because, shepherd's pie is one of my favorite meals when I was a little kid. I mean, I love it now, too. And she ruined it with the sour cream. I don't know what chemical process was going on, but no, sour cream does not belong in a shepherd's pie. Just to be clear. Most of the foods, I've got a cast iron stomach. I'll eat pretty much anything, but I couldn't get through more than like 3 bites of it. And I felt really sad because, she was disappointed because her experiment failed, number one. And number two, because I was denied shepherd's pie. And shepherd's pie I really, really like. Blood Right, thinking all these raids and arrests are to get the authoritarian libs excited to go out and vote. Yeah, it's part of it. Mojo Hansen, $2 for no comment. Thank you very much. Ha ha, but I read out your comment anyway. I took your $2 and I ignored your command. Daryl Coleman, in the case of Trump, I believe they will indict and they will arrest. This has become personal for the leftists and elites. Oh boy, won't all hell break loose at that point. You better believe there will be a multi-hour live stream if they're crazy enough to indict Donald Trump. Plus, how do you detain the former president with his security detail? He's got like 3 layers of security there. He's got his own personal guards. He's got the Secret Service. He's got other fucking agents there. That could turn into a firefight. We'll see what happens, I suppose. Next story. Shock poll, 8 in 10 think Biden laptop cover-up changed the election. Yes, indeed. The vast majority of Americans, some of which have no problem with this fact, we've seen this from multiple content creators, notably that goofball leftist, I can't remember his name, Sam, what's his name? Not Sam Hyde, though. Yes, a super majority of Americans believe that the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop story did impact to some degree the outcome of the 2020 election. And what's happening to the other 20% of Americans? How could you not believe that would impact the election? Yes, if we knew that Quid Pro Joe had illegally done business dealings through his son with foreign nations, no shit, it might have changed a few people's votes. No. Really? We're getting used to the no really thing on this show, I think, because of all the weird news that we've gotten lately. The survey of 1,335 adults was conducted earlier this month by New Jersey-based Technometrica Institute of Policy and Politics. The vast majority of those following the issue said they believe the laptop is real, which it is, while only 11% still believe it was created by Russia. So in other words, a double-digit proportion of Americans have complete Trump derangement syndrome and yet don't read the New York Times or the WAPO, because they've all admitted that it's real. We know this. This is objective. The laptop does exist. The materials on it are actually factual. Among those following the topic, almost 3/4, 74%, believe that the FBI and intel community deliberately misled the public and voters when they claimed the laptop was disinformation and part of a Kremlin plot to hurt Biden's candidacy, which is very interesting because that has been corroborated now. That is actually true. Yes, the FBI was caught out, according to a whistleblower, deliberately suppressing that information for the election. Now, the excuse was we don't want to impact the election. I would think that it would be pertinent to the American voter to know that that laptop existed and what was in it. So if that's true, then the FBI definitely should be disbanded for its unpatriotic action to try to prop up a criminal regime. Brom 39, what is the most you would spend on a firearm? Totally depends on the firearm, I guess. No, most of them aren't that expensive. It's a few hundred, up to 1,000, for something that's pretty decent. And I mean, less for pistols and revolvers. I'm a big revolver person, and they tend to cost less. So it works for me because they're great. I want to get a .357 revolver. I don't know what the price range is now with Bidenflation, but when I get back to the United States, I will be hitting up multiple gun stores to get a couple more pieces. I think I'll get like 2 more, and then I'm going to sell a couple of the lesser items that I have, put it towards the cost, and then I'll basically call it a day. I mean, what I don't want is, even though having an arsenal sounds fun, maintaining that arsenal sounds like hell. Having to oil and clean and fucking, no thanks. I don't have that kind of expendable income. I'd rather spend it on gardening. Basically, I want functional weapons for functional purposes. So you have a small caliber rifle for garden defense. You have something for your everyday carry, especially like going out in the woods and shit. Something for concealed carry. Then you have something for home invaders. And then probably a shotgun, just because it's a good idea to have one. Beyond that, I don't know. I'd love to splurge on a massive-ass anti-material rifle at some point. But I think that I'll save my money and I'll grow crops. And that'll help me save more money. Do some canning and shit like that. I think that's more important. Best thing about some guns is you can get food with them. Mr. Kangaroo, the YouTube channel Mystery Archives on YouTube recently dropped a video about the Chateau and Dutroux Mark. It's worth the watch. I'll have to check that out. Thank you very much. Bricka, morning Sticks. My mom has completely fallen for J6 and calls Cheney a real Republican who shares our values. How can I convince her otherwise? Clank. Show her Dick Cheney's diatribes. That might help. Then ask her why she's a Republican. Why the hell are you a partisan? There are different Republicans. There are different Democrats. There's a big difference between AOC and Joe Manchin. Partisan loyalty is nothing more than a fucking goddamn football game. Nobody should join a political party. There shouldn't be any Republicans or Democrats. They shouldn't exist. Most of you out there, if you're in the United States, you've registered with a party. Why the fuck did you even bother to do that? Just be an independent. Let them have their own primaries. Let them hang themselves. Mojo Hansen, certain content creators, I never search their content and I'd never give them clicks ever. Yeah, agreed. Oh yeah, we've got here's an anti-black pill story, by the way. This is a white pill story. This is a happy one. CNN reporting, archived of course. Links in the description, by the way, and you can go over on Pixel Planet and help color things in or make a little Styx Navy, I guess, or something off the coast. That'd be funny. In fact, I think someone just made an oil tanker down there. Yeah, we need more oil tankers because we do control Nigeria. So we control 4% of the world's oil output. We're going to need a navy down there to defend against Nazis. Anyway, getting off that. CNN, a federal judge has ruled that a Texas law that bans people ages 18 to 20 from carrying handguns in public is unconstitutional, saying the restriction is inconsistent with the Second Amendment and U.S. history. Yes, the best thing about Bruin, in fact, one of the few good things about it, it was too restrained in my opinion. They should have downed the NFA, etc. Is that they forced a relook at certain cases, recent cases and ongoing ones, in the light of the new decision, which says you have to consider U.S. history when you're building a case for any form of gun control in the United States. Now, personally, my belief is that if you really did this rigorously, you wouldn't be able to find a reason to have any gun control. It begins with Cruikshank, first nearly 100 years of the U.S. history. You don't have any gun control, and so all of it should be legally thrown out. But we've got to have incremental cases here. Because they all have to be litigated independently. The idea that a member of the militia, which is anyone who is over the age of 18, they've taken the citizenship's oath, they are a full-blown citizen, they can vote, etc. They are part of the militia. Even if you ignore the second part of the Second Amendment, which says that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, the militia would still broadly apply to them, even if that second part did not exist at all. The well-regulated militia, which means well able to function in 1700s parlance, would be infringed upon by individuals that are under the age of 21, not being able to actually carry certain classes of weapons. And they're not even the most deadly class of weapons as far as their actual usability. The fact is that it makes no sense. The idea of carrying handguns in public, okay, what if you've got it and you live on a farm out in the middle of nowhere and you happen to be 20 years old, so you would have been covered under this, and you want to go to your friend's house a mile away on the next farm, and you get stopped for a routine traffic stop, and you've got your handgun in the glove box, you can be prosecuted for this, even though, I mean, how the hell else are you supposed to transport it? Do you have to disassemble the weapon and put it in your wheel well in order to get it to your friend's house to go hunting grouse or pigs or whatever the fuck you're doing? It would it effectively creates a second-class citizen status among those who are 18, 19, 20 years old in the state of Texas. So it's shot down. There is no precedent. There's no precedent for age restrictions, ammo restrictions, mag restrictions, attachments, anything. There are no precedents for any of these things in the 18th century, and up until the second half of the 19th century, you won't find anything. Most of the meaningful gun control doesn't even date to that. It dates to the early 20th century. It begins in the 1910s and 20s, continues through the 30s and 40s and shit like that. That's not precedent. And if all of those things, by the way, are subjugated to DC versus Heller, McDonald versus Chicago, and the undoing of Cruikshank, literally all gun control in the United States is effectively unconstitutional. Now, I know this already, and I know most of you do as well. But you can make that argument legally. You just need very verbose and skilled lawyers to argue those cases in the right courts. My hope is that people that have skill to organize such a thing do so. It should be in all 50 states. There should be no gun control in the United States. Michael Cricklow, do you mind explaining the role of the Fed Reserve in layman's terms and why Rand Paul wants to end it? Would we be better off under the gold standard? I oppose the gold standard because gold is a tradable commodity with malleable value. It makes more sense, arguably, to have fiat currency, which is pretty sad. That being said, the Federal Reserve does not need to exist in order for currency to be issued. The states can handle that explicitly themselves. You do not need a strong central banking apparatus for your economy to exist. It's just not necessary. The Grizzly, what's your over and under of them actually having the balls to arrest and charge Trump? What kind of civil unrest would it cause if they are that crazy? Well, one thing that emboldens them is that they know that the right wing is more lawful than the left. So the left wing, something happens it doesn't like, they go and they hurl their shit or Molotov cocktails at cops. The right wing, unless you really, really push them, tend not to do that. So they're not worrying about a bunch of people in plate carriers with assault weapons showing up at Congress or anything like that. So there is a chance that they're actually crazy enough to do that. They will face mass protests. The Grizzly, also, what's your favorite toppings for steak? If it's properly done, it doesn't really need a topping. It's just whatever you marinated it in, cooked it in, I guess. I like broccoli on the side with it, kind of keto version. Broccoli, by the way, I made last night. I made a new recipe for the sauce that I cooked the broccoli in. You saute off the onions first with butter and also a little bit of ghee, pile in the broccoli, and then I made something as beef bouillon, half a teaspoon of asafoetida, which really potentiates the flavor. So you get the onion, you get the asafoetida. I added a little bit of other stuff to it. What else did I add, actually? I didn't have to add any salt because the bouillon already has salt in it. Actually, I completely forgot what the third ingredient was. What the fuck was it? Anyway, I'd love to tell you my secret stir-fried broccoli recipe, but apparently I forgot the extra ingredient. So sorry about that. Yeah, and I made chicken. I made barbecue chicken, and it was goddamn delicious. Jay Reed, do you see conservatives winning 30-plus state legislatures after SCOTUS hears the elections case next term? Can they get a filibuster-proof majority? Possibly. Let's give it a 50-50 chance. Ohio Trucker 1. Ruger GP100 is a very strong 357 and can take a wide variety of ammo loadings. Sounds good. Sketch Therapy. Hooray for wind pills. The more the better. Thanks. Elasmo Bra. Rhinos going extinct. Bad. Rhinos going extinct. Good. Yeah, agreed. Mojo Hansen. Why can't you be live everywhere, every time? I could put like a camera on me or something, like a little GoPro, and just wander around rambling to myself. Opinionated Junkie. Thoughts on the Lord of War Victor bout? I have no clue what that is. Hella Radio Lives. The Affadavit is Orange Man Bad version of a game of blank in the fills. Yet another Trump jump to detract from their own misdeeds. Agreed. Brom 39. MR73 357 revolver. Considered one of the best revolvers ever made. Price is around $3,600. Yeah, I think that I could spend a little bit less to get a serviceable 357. I'm not exactly aiming for a Taurus or something, but I have a feeling that you could cut that in half fairly easily. My main priority, I really want to get a tactical pistol, though. Something either in 5.7 or 10 millimeter. Sketch Therapy. Is gun transport law kind of like Marijuana Tax Act? Yeah, I guess so when you think about it. Rob S. I noticed Styx Hexenhammer's cat is number 2 on the Grifties. Need to get number 1. Clank. Yes, indeed. If you go to the Grifties site there, Hotep Jesus administers that. My cat is now number 2 on the Grifties list, right behind Nick Rekieta, who is only number 1 because he commanded his own audience to vote for him. Ozzy's Robots. Were Trump to win in 2024, what do you think the administrative state strategy will be? I see mass resignations, constant sabotage. By the way, only need 1/2 Biden unit for 1K subs, so hop on board, clankers. Yeah, you can subscribe to Ozzy's Robots if you want. Yeah, I think that there will be sabotage. It's not going to end. Trump will need to clean house. He'll get called an authoritarian for doing so, but he should just ignore it. Fire down below. People would have voted differently if they knew about the Hunter Biden laptop, but in the end, they would have just honked more and the election result would be the same. Possible. Although the margin was pretty thin in numerous areas. Honk, honk. Wolf on the Plains. Morning, Sticks. Have you heard Tim's new song? I haven't heard the whole thing yet, no. The Grizzly. Tell the clankers of Chicago to pixel up West Michigan. We're so close to pixeling up my hometown of Kalamazoo, guys. Charge towards the mitten. Yeah, there's all sorts of Styxhexen areas on Pixel Planet. Clankdom has quite a wide reach. I think that we're probably number 1 as far as that goes. Sebastian Monroe. Is Stumpot just mashed potatoes mixed with vegetables? I made something with sauerkraut a while ago. Might expand my Dutch cuisine knowledge. Just make really nice buttery mashed potatoes. Separately, you make bacon, or here it's speck, which is thicker cut. And you cook that off, and you put it in. And then our method, the Liz method, which I like better, is you take andivy, which is a cultivar of chicory, if I remember correctly, the leaves specifically, and you put it in and you mix it around. You put that in cold. You don't want to actually cook it, although some people do. There's also Bornkool, which is with broccoli. You can use cauliflower. You can probably use carrot and shit like that if you boil them first. You can pretty much mush anything up in there if you want to. It is sort of like a cottage pie. Bleach Demon. Are you familiar with the leftist anarchist concept of propaganda of the dead? Seems to have returned to that from the 1910s. Yeah, I haven't heard of... Oh, propaganda of the deed. My apologies. No, I haven't actually. Ryan McDonald, USA. Will you be watching Sam Hyde boxing fight? Lol. No, I don't really watch sports. Sports ball. Roberto Gonzalez. Keep up the great work. Godspeed. Tyler McDonald. Time flies like an arrow. Fruit flies like a banana. Thoughts? Yes, I get the reference from Elfin Ship. I hope that that's where you're getting it from. One of Dooley's better quotes of his grandfather, Escargot. Not a bad account. Will the president resign? No, Biden's not going to resign. He'll straggle on and refuse to run again, in my opinion. Next news story. This is an Axios post, by the way. Trump and close allies have argued that the multiple investigations he's facing, and in particular the search of his Mar-a-Lago property, are something out of a banana republic. But former leaders have been jailed or charged all over the world. Let's look at the map of the world according to Axios here and see some of the other countries that they're referring to. They very helpfully include a map here, and for some reason, this one's trying not to load. Fuck it. We'll just have to use the smaller image. Yes, we've got a few countries on there that, the average Westerner wouldn't have a problem with, like France or South Korea. South Korea, again, as I reported on this morning, I think that was due to cult activity by their former president or prime minister or whatever the hell she was. Let's look at some other countries. This is what they're comparing the Biden administration to. Just to be clear, no hyperbole, every opinion aside, this is their post. They're clearly in support of it. Colombia, Paraguay, South Africa, North Sudan. They've never had any problems with rebels or deposing people. Libya, which they put on as complicated. The former leader wasn't ousted. He was just sodomized to death and then had his head cut off, and now the country basically doesn't exist. Ukraine, yeah, no problems there. Pakistan, Burma, of all places, Myanmar, the Philippines and Mongolia. This is Malaysia, Papua New Guinea. These are nations that they want to compare the Biden administration to show that it is not a banana republic style thing that they're doing right now. This is probably the biggest fail post that I've ever seen in my entire life. I haven't seen legacy media propaganda fall this flat. Mostly, there's usually some sort of problem with their propaganda because these people aren't very smart, but I would never expect them to concoct a map in which anyone who knows even elementary geography and anything with regards to sociopolitics, like an elementary understanding, like you took one political science course in a half-assed fucking university that has a 70% turnover rate, you probably still could understand why this map was a bad idea to post. And it went so far when I was thinking about it, fucking Malawi and places like Mozambique. No, Mozambique's not on there. Sorry, my apologies. That one is I can't remember. Actually, that is Mozambique. Okay, never mind. I got it wrong. Anyway, you get to the point here where I almost thought, did Axios do this to perturb the Biden admin? So they're effectively comparing his administration with a bunch of banana republics and corrupt third world dictatorships and military juntas and shit like that. But they're pretending to defend him so that they can insult him, but nobody really does anything about it because it looks like a pro-Biden post. And I was thinking, that's possible, because I can't imagine any other reason. No reasonable individual would look at this map and say that the jailing of former presidents or political figures in general of this kind would be anything other than third world. You've got half the continent of Africa, most of Latin America, a chunk of Eastern Europe, and then a handful of blighted Asian nations that have continuous problems. Afghanistan's on the fucking list, for Christ's sake. Romania, a couple of the Baltic countries. The only ones on this list, if you look here, that are stable, I mean, politically speaking, and you can talk about culture and wealth and all this shit. The only ones that are politically stable, South Korea, Iceland, France, to an extent, I guess you could put in Italy in that list. They've had their own fucking problems. Slovakia and Portugal. And that's basically it. They're, other than maybe if there are microstates on this list, and Thailand, I suppose, as an afterthought, generally is reasonably stable. Everything else on this list is a third world. Oh, and Taiwan. Sorry, I don't want to forget the Taiwanese. Everything else here is a third world hellhole. Iraq, Egypt. Yeah, no, that didn't happen because the military had to take back over because of a bunch of Islamists that Obama promoted taking over the country. No, this isn't unstable at all. Tunisia is on here. Yes, because a bunch of Islamo-fascists attempted to usurp the entire country. Mali, I like how they post that as being complicated. It's not complicated. One person gets outed, another person gets in, they get outed, another person gets in. That's basically the repetitive thing that happens in a lot of these countries. And by the way to throw Latin America under the bus, because it's effectively all of South America other than Chile, Venezuela, and Uruguay. Uruguay, the weed paradise, Chile, that until recently was under the control of hardline capitalists, and Venezuela, where the military authority answers directly in the partisan fashion to whoever happens to be in charge, and most communistic. Buriquadimus, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck Norris? Not very much. It would get hammered in the face. Sebastian Monroe, I'm surprised that your Chaplin stash pick wasn't used during these latest defamation hit jobs against you. At least they realized you're a bit older. Yeah, they still used an outdated video, though, for some reason. I don't know what the hell these people at Reuters are doing. They're not fact-checking. Uninspired, who sells the best rotisserie chicken? I've never actually had a rotisserie chicken, come to think of it. That's a revelation. I'll have to have one sometime. Best chicken I ever had was the first one Liz ever cooked. She made a chicken with all the trimmings and shit, cooked it for hours and hours, and it was it was good. Second best is probably the barbecue chicken I made the other day. And my Parthian chicken, by the way, is really good too. Florida Mugwump, given Joe's age and condition, Kamala may be called upon to select a new VP. Do you know the process? Does the Senate confirm? That won't happen. You don't have to worry unless Joe Biden literally croaks. He's not going anywhere until his term ends. Sean Willis, don't forget the Democratic Republic of Chiquita. Yeah. Banana Republic Biden or Alzheimer's Adolf. You decide which one is the better mimetic kill shot. Kyle Schmidt, clank from the campfire with a gritty mug of stovetop percolator coffee. How many people are watching live, by the way? Yeah, we got about 4,000 people watching live. It's a lot less on the weekends. That's still pretty good for a Saturday. Then we have the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. They posted a post. Again, links in the description, and there's also the Pixel Planet thing. You can go and tile things in to defeat the Nazis there in Africa. We're running a North Africa campaign against Erwin Rommel, I guess, at the moment, or some shit. The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire says, Happy Holidays the other day. This was the anniversary of John McCain fucking croaking, and thank goodness, good riddance. And it happens to be a picture of Meghan McCain, who is equally as war-happy, obnoxious, and authoritarian, mourning at his altar, at his coffin, which contains his dead, decrepit, decaying body at the time. I'm just imagining what would happen. They have an earthquake and the lid falls off, and all you see is his ghoulish body, like all sallow and sunken and fucked up. And imagine her reaction then. And I was thinking to myself, most of the people that are criticizing me there, because I said people criticizing this probably would not have an issue with chuckling about when Saddam died. Same with Gaddafi, et cetera, et cetera. And they are on the same par as John McCain. Warmonger, war pig, greasy goddamn neocon opportunist. I'm not going to pretend to support him in any way, shape, or form. I'm not going to pretend that I give a shit about his daughter grieving. I'm not going to pretend that I care about these people because they really are miserable fucks. They really are evil by general standards. And I was thinking, some of you people about a week ago were laughing and telling jokes about that Daria chick, you know, the daughter of whatever his name was, the minister who may have inspired Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine. When she got killed, even though she was a complete non-combatant, not aligned directly with the Russian government, you people laughed. You thought it was funny and told jokes about it. Ah, ha, ha. You know, we got one of these evil Russians and so forth. And she was, you know, in her 30s. She's a young woman. Old dude dies after an ignominious career. He was a complete traitor in Vietnam. He was a complete traitor as a senator. He's hanging out with the fucking Al-Qaeda and shit like that. But how dare you criticize him? This is why the libertarians lose. No, I admire them more for having the balls to do this. Could you have seen the Libertarian Party doing this under the so-called leadership of people like Johnson and Weld or Jorgensen before the Mises Caucus took over? And I love how they call the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire extremists. It's a fucking picture. It's got 2 words attached to it. They're celebrating the death of a warmonger. I think that that's a good thing. Fuck John McCain. It's good. I'm glad that he's dead. It's a wonderful time. Let's see here. Fake Break sent $2. Thank you. No comment. The Grizzly, also your over-under on Kamala running in 24 at this point. I would I would take the under. Let's put it that way. Do you think she's megalomaniacal and sadistic enough to give it a try, or do you think the DNC will just slip a check in her pocket to make sure it doesn't happen? I think the latter. I don't think that they want her to run. She may try, but the problem is she came in like 7th place the last time around. Her only qualification is having been VP. As we see with Mike Pence, that doesn't necessarily translate into a strong voting bloc. Sparky, will Clank Nation join BRICS? No, we're part of the non-aligned movement. We like Tito better than anything else. Jimmy Hart's Purple Rain. Obama and Biden spied on journalists, dropped bombs on kids, and assassinated U.S. citizens, but Trump had documents. They must have dirt on journos. I think there must be some dirt in those documents, yeah. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been so obsessed with removing them. Dutch West Indian Co. The McShane meme wasn't good intro to the Libertarian Party. McCain with the leg brace on both legs would have been better. I think they should have used the one. You remember when Trump tweeted out about, I can't remember, what's his name there? The one that was really fat. And he had his shirt, it was kind of sheer and his nipples were protruding from it. And Trump, I think this was before the 2016 election, called him disrespectful because his nipples were exposed before Congress and stuff like that. And people thought it was hilarious at the time. God, that might have been back in the rosy days. But then somebody took that same comment and removed whoever it was and put in McCain. And it had John McCain standing there and his head was like bulbous. And it was talking about his tumor head protruding. They should have done that instead. In all honesty, they could have used a different picture. But I think that they did this particularly to antagonize people. Hey, I think it's positive attention. You hate John McCain. Maybe they're still trying to play it up to the Democrats, only they're not pretending to be pro-open borders anymore. Sparky, she was 29 and her dad wasn't part of the government. No, I know that, although I thought she was in her 30s, actually. I know he wasn't part of the government, but people played it up as though he was the man that was behind the Ukrainian invasion by inspiring Putin towards nationalism or something. Kyle Schmidt, Hillary Cheney 2024, just watch. That will not happen. There is no possibility in the world that Hillary Clinton would have a female VP. It won't happen. She can't, there's no possibility that she would want to share the podium with anyone else that was remotely like her. She'd be much more likely to take someone who is a brown person, male, very meek. They better stand out of the fucking way because Hillary would run the show. But Hillary 2024 won't happen either. Brian Zwart. Imagine half the country hating on a president who happens to wear sunglasses when he lays out in the sun and leaves himself with badger eyes. To this day, I'm still trying to figure out what Trump did. Link in the description. Finally caught a live stream. Do you have any thoughts on Geoff Diehl in Massachusetts? Don't know who it is. Running for office, perhaps? Fake break. The tuna sandwich with dill pickle juice drizzled all over it is amazing. Yeah, I have been watching for a while. Now try it with sweet pickle juice. Oh, yeah. And then you just take a bunch of dill, like the actual spice, and, dump it all over it. White House silent on whether tax increases are necessary to pay for $300 billion student loan handout. Administration officials argue the national deficit is already plunging under Biden. Well, that won't keep happening for long if you do this. Yes, indeed, the Biden administration, after several days, has yet to answer through Karine Jean-Pierre or any other moron in the administration exactly where the money is going to come from. But I have a simple solution. I can tell you exactly where the money is going to come from to cancel or forgive all the student loans that are pertinent to this deal. Inflation. They'll print more money. And that means that the little people will pay even more when they go to the pump, when they go to the grocery store, et cetera, et cetera. They're not going to get it from corporations. You'd have to have a separate tax bill. They haven't proposed that. You're not getting it from the super rich. Inflation doesn't hit them. They don't give a shit if their yacht is worth 70 grand now. 70 million now or 80 million later. It paces inflation. It doesn't make any difference as long as it's maintained. All that matters is that people with savings, people with salaries, people who work wages, etc., which is 90% of the population, those people get screwed. Yay, they can pay for their own student loans through inflation. Well, Biden is a capitalist after all. It just required government to make it happen. Michael Cricklow. Sam's Club rotisserie chicken is superior. Zinc Orby. Thanks for the tip about tarragon. Never tried it. It is delicious. Yes, and also caraway. Put caraway on basically everything. Now we've got the generic congressional vote. This will be a brief one here. I want to keep it a little bit short on these last ones because, I've got to look at Pixel Planet and shit. Anyway, we have Rasmussen and Emerson. They came in. And also YouGov and Politico. They paste their prior results, so that doesn't matter. Link in the description, of course. You can follow along. Right now, the Republicans are still about a half a point ahead in the generic congressional ballot. They had sunk slightly below the Democrats, but it looks like the Democrats are now receding a little bit. They've dropped in overall support. You have to understand that the gap and the actual numbers both matter. And in most of these polls, the numbers only add up to about 85 to 90 actual points, because there's always a proportion of people who aren't sure or who don't give a shit. And they say, I'm not voting. They all fucking suck. They all suck cocks in hell, so I'm not voting at all. You get the angry grandma once in a while, or the taxpayer who's lived long enough to be screwed up the ass by both parties. The fact is this. If you were to have a tie in the congressional ballot going into the midterms, the GOP still wins. They may not retake the Senate, but they certainly retake the House. You've got an enthusiasm gap. That much is clear. You have a registration gap. That's objective. We've known that for months. On a tie, the GOP will take it. Even if the Democrats were ahead by 2 points, I would still favor the GOP to retake the House. And I can't see that happening, because what I see is a temporary bump in Democrat support, which is part of a natural undulation process. When I look at this, I don't really see a rise in Democratic support. I see a stagnation that's actually at around 43. And you can draw a line of best fit, and you can see this. With the Republicans, you have a line, but you happen to be on a double lull, which can be just statistical anomaly. I have no reason to believe that that won't resolve itself. But even if the Democrats are ahead on Election Day, they will still lose the House of Representatives, in my opinion. That is my official belief. If it's more than 2 points, then the GOP definitely needs to get worried. And with friends like Mitch McConnell, of course, that could end up happening. Lapco92, I know you like cats, but what are your thoughts on ferrets? Just curious. I can communicate very well with ferrets. They love me. DB, don't the student loan forgiveness have to pass Congress? Biden technically can't do this. If they shoot it down, heads will explode all around us. We have to wait and see, because, of course, he can try an EO and it can be potentially injuncted by a court. Or they can try legislation, but there's no guarantee that it passes. We have to wait and see what happens. Lehman Russ, Sticks, birthday gift for Vroom. Would you please do your longest? Yeah, boy. Also, please hold your saber up so I can see it. I collect antique swords. Yeah, of course. Ta-da! Yeah. Still have to clean a little bit of that pitting out of the edge. But when the sword's over 200 years old, you know, what can you fucking do? I professionally sharpened it and oiled it up, sitting in a pool of oil in there to prevent further decay. Smell the glove. Did you listen to Tim's new Culture? It sucks. The part that I saw from it didn't sound bad at all. Sounded fairly good. Michael Baker, no comment. Just take care of that little girl. Right now, she is upstairs with her mother, actually, because I'm live streaming. She gets, you get fussy once in a while. I have that same problem. I get fussy anytime I have to wait for something for more than 2 minutes. Ian O'Malley, got a new job recently and maybe even a new career path the first time in my life. Wow, Pixel Planet looks insane now. Good work taking out the Nazis, clankers. My mouth was genuinely agape when I clicked. Yeah, we've done a huge number on their giant swastika there. It's funny because this is doing more against white supremacy than Jared Holt ever will. Yet I'm the one who's a white supremacist, supposedly. And I find it funny, like I watch the pixels changing in real time and I have a great time. And I was doing a bunch of coloring in yesterday. I'll do some more later. Put on a documentary, eat. At some point, I should probably eat real food. I had one chicken leg earlier. I do not like to eat before I work. And so I've been delaying like even having lunch lately for the most part. Other than, I don't know, it's a vitamin D shot or some shit like that. I just get it because it tastes good. Better than their smoothies. Nice and gingery. DB, also thank you for the fast food vid from last year. I've since then been staying away from that crap. Plus, it's too expensive than cooking at home. Yeah, make your own burgers. They'll be better anyway. Devin Selnez, Gavin McInnes got scooped up. Thoughts? I do not have corroboration that he got scooped up specifically. People should send me links. Yeah. Okay, the next story. Police believe person found dead was swindler Hoffenberg. Notice that doesn't mention Epstein at all. Hartford, Connecticut. Connecticut authorities were working Thursday to confirm that convicted Ponzi schemer and Jeffrey Epstein mentor Stephen Hoffenberg was the person found dead in an apartment earlier this week. Lieutenant Justin Stanko, his name, Lieutenant Justin Stanko of Derby Police, said evidence at the scene, including a car, cell phone, and medical record, all pointed to the person being Hoffenberg. But the body could not immediately be identified because of the advanced stage of decomposition. So they found him stupefied, basically. And officials were waiting for confirmation from dental records, he said. Stanko said it appears that the person had been dead for at least 7 days. An initial autopsy was inconclusive, but determined there were no signs of trauma. I'm so surprised. The cause of death was pending toxicology test results. Yeah, I'm sure that he pulled a Kurt Cobain and he injected 10 times the lethal dose of fentanyl. And then he shot himself in the back of the head several times. Then he hanged himself, and then he ran over himself with his own car. Why do I get the feeling it's going to be just like that? Sir Fartknocker, you inspired me to start my mushroom farm and are a good way to start my day. Stay real, my dude. Excellent. I hope those are legal mushrooms. Grow portobellos. Jeez, they're really good. You brush them with balsamico and put cheese on them and then roast them up. And it makes a really good vegetarian burger, actually. KFC tastes like third world shithole swamp rat now. I miss the coronal. Yeah, KFC has not been the same in a number of years. Last time I ate there was probably 7 or 8 years ago. I got one of their heart attack sandwiches, which is chicken tendies and bacon and cheese and shit all smashed together into a faux sandwich. They did it just to be edgy. I don't know if they still offer them. It was pretty good, but not for the price. Ozzy's Robots. Do you think the left actually follows tenets of philosophers like Hegel? Groups like the WEF and Davos appear to be more like grifting sociopathic authoritarians. Why are so many people duped by them? Well, Hegel was a grifting sociopathic authoritarian. Just to be clear, that is the root of Marxism. Marxism is evil. It will never stop being evil. The boomers were trained right, and everyone else since then has been trained wrong. And unfortunately, we've forgotten the fact that we are at war with communism. And communism is morphed into other authoritarian sub-ideologies that it proclaims are not communism, such as globalism, etc., but they are fundamentally similar. Lemon Russ, sword tip, your saber has a leather washer. Do not oil it. Oil degrades leather. Buy Renaissance wax for your sword. Very good and cheap on Amazon. Thank you for the tip. Although the entire handle area needs to be redone anyway, so I don't know that it matters much. Let's see. Havercamp Truth. I agree with student loan forgiveness based on the fact that it's essentially predatory loaning. Therefore, they're illegal contracts. Yeah, the problem is that a bunch of people that are too poor to go to college and a bunch of people that already paid off their predatory loans are the ones paying for it. You want to get the money? Shrink the government. Now we've got the Daily Wire posted this. Biden after he calls on the wrong reporter. I took that control. I shouldn't do that. I'm not allowed to do that. Yes, indeed. Take that video and watch it. It's only 24 seconds. Link in the description. Biden, once again, is saying the silent part out loud, that he's not allowed to take questions like he wants. He's not allowed to act as he wants. His handlers will make sure that little Joey takes his bran muffin at the right time, takes his prune juice. He goes in as a poopy. They change his diaper after that to put a butt plug in just to make sure there's no anal leakage. And then they trot him out after doping him up before the press. And they have carefully scripted Q&A sessions, if they have them at all. He knows what's going to be asked, although he forgets frequently, so they probably have to whisper into an earpiece, doubling as a hearing aid, and he's not allowed to deviate from that script. In fact, the man's not really a president. I mean, he is a steward. It's the asterisk administration. And can I ask this, and I posted about this earlier, if this happened with literally anyone else in that office, if Trump had said it, if Carter had said it, if Clinton had said it, if Obama had fucking said it, wouldn't this have caused raised eyebrows? Wouldn't the press have been like, what the fuck does the president mean? It may not think anything of it, but it would be asking that question. Biden administration? No. And I'll tell you why, because they know exactly what it means. He's being entirely serious. He's not permitted by the people that are his masters. He is the little puppy, and he gets spanked frequently if he does anything wrong. Other people are in charge of the United States. ES 1776 seems like suspending student loan payments until the end of fuck Joe Biden's term would be a better and less catastrophic alternative to loan forgiveness. Ironically, I disagree with you. You're kicking the can and building up more and more pressure for a bubble if you do that. Miku Forex Bot. I still eat at KFC. They removed the wedge fries. How sad. Make your own home fries sometime. Trust me. Lehman Russ, if the leather washer goes, it all falls apart. Oh, that's no good shit. Sketch therapy. Jail predatory loners and Democrats who gave them power. John W. Keene State College, Keene, New Hampshire. Sucks. Waste of money. Keene is actually pretty nice, though, I will say. I've been there before. They used to have the Keene Buffet, which was the best all-you-can-eat buffet I've ever been to. Massive, huge selection. Way better than most small-town buffets you're ever going to go to. Next, we have Europe's electricity prices soar as tough winter looms. This year-ahead contract for German electricity reached 995 euros per megawatt hour, while the French equivalent surged past 1,100 euros, a more than tenfold increase in both countries from last year. Unfortunately, if you look to the end of the article, they bury this part conveniently down below, a little bit of a lie by structure. They're now declaring that it is inevitable that there will be a recession. Here's the thing. If Europe enters a recession, and based on this, it would be a significant one. They're reducing aluminum output. They're reducing all forms of manufacturing. Europe buys a lot of shit from the United States, especially vehicles, aeronautics, stuff like that. Here's the problem. If Europe enters a recession, then the U.S. output will drop as well, and the U.S. will officially be in a double recession. It's already in one now, while Europe is still buying. This is a big problem. This is going to have a ripple effect across the world. What could end up happening is that one recession triggers another, and that triggers another, and so on forth, and every bubble pops at once, and you end up with a Great Depression. That's what globalism does. This is why we desperately need to get away from it. Yeah, I know the Europeans call it aluminium instead of aluminum. I don't know exactly why. Is this sort of like the difference between the metric system and like having feet and pounds and shit like that? Anyway, it's still aluminum to me. Just found a Damascus steel handmade Diffos hunting machete for 130. Nice, thanks. Zombie Cartman. Sounds pretty cool. Although you do realize that the concept of Damascus steel is basically just highly decorative because they've made it in multicolored layers. And we don't necessarily know that that's the original Damascus steel, just so that people are aware. Get a knife made of meteor steel. Now that would be cool. I want to recover an iron meteorite and then process it into a steel billet and then make a sword out of it. Dustin Valco sent $1. Thank you. It's me, the herpes. We Europeans discovered it and named it. Whatever we call it, that's the way it's called. Interesting. So then, we can call the internet whatever we want. We can call it the anti-Eurozone. I'm just joking. That'd be funny, though. Imagine you get into a linguistic war between the old and new world, or between like two countries or something like that, and they keep redefining their language just to fuck with each other. I'm pretty sure that's what the French do already. DB, watching Biden is basically Weekend at Bernie's. Yeah, it's not great. Yeah, I'll have to look that up later. Don't worry, I've still got the Mothers of Darkness Castle thing open here. I'll look that up later because it does look intriguing. I love spooky shit. And basically, you got to understand, August is ending. To me, that means it's basically the same as Halloween. As of basically 4 days from now, when August ends, it is officially the Halloween season. For 2 solid months, all of September, it tends to be a dark and rainy month in most parts of the world. Very dark and rainy in general. And then October, certainly, it's basically all Halloween. I need to get a real pumpkin, though, this year. Last year, I had some gourds behind me and some corn, I think, on shit. Ian O'Malley, primitive technology made a blade out of pond scum. Yeah, I'm sure that held up really well. Earl Joan Aber sent $1. Thank you. Sebastian Monroe, wouldn't you rather have a big iron on your hip? I'd like to get a black powder 6-shooter. That's something. You can get a mail ordered in the United States. Try getting them here. Even if you got one, you couldn't find ammo for it. Or black powder. Although you can make it. It's not actually that difficult. Saltpeter, you piss on some hay and then filter it out. And mix it with some charcoal powder and some sulfur. You do it wrong and all of a sudden it turns into flash powder. But anyway, I think that I'm going to go off now. Got a... Oh, actually, we have one chat over on Rumble I've got to get to. So please don't send any more super chats. Fun hobbies. Rumble is growing fast. For the best apolitical channel, Lo-Fi Girl is now streaming here. I don't know anything about her and therefore cannot confirm or deny whether the channel is any good, but you can check it out anyway. Yeah, we had 4,500 at peak. And by the way, on a weekend, that's actually not bad. It's like 6,000, 7,000 on a weekday. I think people treat it as a morning show at this point. Miku 4X Bot, September is Earth, Wind, and Fire Month. Ian O'Malley, as a byproduct, the bacteria produce iron. I thought you were making a joke at first when I saw you bifurcated byproduct. I thought that was going to be a smart remark. You let me down. I'm just joking. Yeah, that's a pond scum blade. That sounds like something from a fucking video game. It sounds like Arthurian in nature, like the sword from the lake sort of thing. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go off now. Manuel Wintrago says, have fun. Even though he violated the no super chat code, I am disappointed in you. You must do 100 blocks of hard labor on Pixel Planet as recompense for this importunity. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go off even though I've had a great time. This was definitely, it was a lot of news to cover today. Much of it very, very sarcastic, you may have noticed. That's about all. Peace out.